You're listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast, a podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, read articles on renegadeblitz.com, and like us on Facebook. 3 games into the preseason, 1 more to go, and we'll talk about the Steelers preseason so far. Welcome to the Renegade Blitz podcast. I'm Ty Polk, joined by Chris Ward, and we have a new guest for our recap podcast this year. We want to welcome Brandon Walker. He also went to Point Park just like us, and he also does a host of other writing for sports publications as well. Brandon, talk about some of the places that you've wrote for.
Oh, I have write for the new Pittsburgh Courier. You will see an article about said game that we are about to talk about on Wednesday when it comes out, and it'll be online. And also write for Fan Rankings, all sports, all the time for the fans.
Nice. And also Brandon will chip in a little bit with some articles on the renegadeblitz.com. So Brandon, it's always great to have another Point Parker in here to join me and Chris. So welcome to the team. You really can't ask for a much better start for the Steelers. 3-0, winning the Hall of Fame game, going to Philadelphia and beating the Eagles, and also just recently defeating the Lions 26-20. So guys, who has been the player that you've been the most interested in watching this preseason? And we'll start with Brandon.
It's easy to say the rookie first round pass draft pick Najee Harris, but I'm really liking Highsmith right now. I saw him in camp. I went to a camp practice at Big Old Fan Frenzy Day. He looked unblockable, and I'll talk about that a little bit in my article coming up this week. He was going up one-on-one against the tight end. The name I don't want to mess up, but you know the guy who caught 2 touchdown passes.
Freiermuth?
Yeah, the kid from Penn State. He was on them, and the kid from Penn State. I'll get his name right during the season. Trust and believe. The kid from Penn State's starting to impress me too, because he looks like he could play with Ben. He looks like he's the perfect tight end, like a Heath Miller type, what they had back in the day. Makes any types of catches. He showed a little bit of physicality in the blocking.
As you mentioned, those 2 red zone touchdowns were, very Heath Miller-esque there. Just, such shorthanded. They said in training camp, Freiermuth, he hasn't dropped a pass yet. And that was the case in Penn State. He never had a drop in the red zone in his 3 years at State College. So it was definitely encouraging to see his performance on Saturday night. And I really think he's going to be tight end 1, if not already. I mean, Ebron, he did have a solid game, but the thing with Ebron is just he's so inconsistent. He had a drop on that 3rd down to start off the first series. He got blown up on a run block, and then he had a false start penalty too. So just I would like to see Ebron be a little bit more consistent, but I think Freiermuth is going to take over that tight end 1 spot rather soon, if not already.
Yeah, I wrote on the draft review for the renegadeblitz.com that I predicted that Freiermuth would take over tight end 1 either halfway through the season or towards the end of the season. I did not have him taking it over before week 1, but it's a welcome surprise. And I'm an Ebron fan. I'm going to say that right now. I think for the most part, what we got out of him is what you're going to get. And it was honestly, to begin the season, pretty good, all told. I think that it's great that Freiermuth is doing this, and we've got to stop the fans from calling him Heath every time he makes the catch. Not every white tight end is Heath Miller, but also Rich Eisen said that Pat Freiermuth, a white tight end from Penn State, typical Steelers player.
He still needs to get better as a blocker. He's not, when Heath Miller came out, Miller was by far a better blocker. But he's getting there though. I think he's better than Ebron. We'll just put it that way. That's why I think he'll become the number 1 tight end, pretty soon here. If not, like I mentioned already, I think he just brings more of a dimension as a blocking tight end than Ebron.
What I noticed, he gets past the defenders too. He got past the line safety and the linebackers on that 8-yard touchdown pass, and he can make those contested catches, twisting. That's what you need. That's what you need when Ben Roethlisberger is your quarterback. Am I correct?
Yeah, and Freiermuth, we kind of could transition to Ben too. What did you guys think of his performance? That was a vintage Roethlisberger pump fake there on the first touchdown to Freiermuth.
Yes, it was. I think he underthrew one of them passes, the one that Johnson came up with. So it's still not what it used to be. If you're 40 years old, it wouldn't be, but it's better than last year.
Yeah, the fact that they were taking deep shots towards the middle of the field, that's the more pressing thing that I'm actually excited about. They're attacking the middle. It was the boundaries last year.
And Roethlisberger even showed his mobility there on that third down in the first series where he escaped pressure and got outside the pocket. And that was the throw that Ebron. I saw some people say that like the Lions safety had his hand in there. Bob Pompiani during the broadcast said it was a drop. But regardless, that was just a great. It showed Ben still has his athleticism, and I thought he really, he looked really good. On the flip side, it was the Lions, and they looked brutal. I know offensively they didn't have some starters playing. Jared Goff was out. Their tight end were Hawkinson. They didn't have DeAndre Swift playing either. Williams, the running back, their other running back. So they did have some guys out. And
who are their receivers? Can you name any of them?
Any of them? they don't have much talent. The Lions, just put it that way.
Well, they've been bereft of it because Marvin Jones. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is he playing for the Jags or something like that?
Yeah, he's a Jaguar.
Galladay's out with the Giants.
He's the Giants.
Let's put it's going to be a long year for Dan Campbell and the Lions. And the Steelers play them this year at Heinz Field at Week 10. So that might be like a homecoming game for the Steelers.
But still, they got a double Renegade in a random November game against the Lions. So anything is possible in the NFL.
A double Renegade? What is a double Renegade?
A double Renegade. You can look up the trivia question on, well, actually, now that the original account is banned, I do have the video of us asking that trivia question. It was before the Browns playoff game, actually. Yes, the Lions. Aside from the Ravens, of course, in that Christmas game, were the last team to get a double Renegade.
So I want to think. I talked to Ty about this the other day. Do you think it was more of the Steelers being looking good or whatever, or is it the Lions just that bad? Or Ty mentioned a little bit of both. What do you think about that, Brandon?
There's a little bit of both because I don't think they do not. They're the worst team in the league, probably save for Houston. And I'd put Houston above them if Deshaun Watson plays. So I can barely name anybody on their defense. Okuda?
Yeah, definitely.
He was looking shaky his rookie year. So
I said Najee Harris broke his ankles on that 46-yard catch and run. Which we'll get to, I guess, or we could talk about now.
Of course, Najee Harris just out there doing Najee Harris things. That little check down on a play action rollout, which again, we heard reports that Ben doesn't want to turn his back away from the defense. And again, I know it's the preseason, it's the Lions, but still, that's probably going to be used in a true game situation. And it's always nice to have something like that in your back pocket.
They're like comparing him to Le'Veon. That's what they're trying to do in camp. I don't know if he's going to be like. I think he's more of a power back. Because like Le'Veon was 220. This guy's 240. I'm not going to say he's Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry is the best running back in the league right now. But I don't know how to describe who he is. Like what you want to compare. What player would you compare him to? Like a power back that could catch the ball at the backfield. That got speed. I don't see too many backs like that. I can't even give a good comparison.
I want to say this just for the record. Originally, when Le'Veon Bell was drafted for the Steelers, there wasn't really much of a ranking for him as a receiving back. In Michigan State, he was a traditional with a fullback and a running back, and he was much bigger. He actually lost weight once he got to the NFL. So he had the power. He just created the elusiveness that we managed to know and love for many years here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you're right. He was more of a lumbering. I thought he was going to be a power back type, like what Najee Harris is now. That's what I thought of Le'Veon when he came into the league. But I would be careful because Le'Veon always gotten hurt. I think when he lost weight, I think he lost a little bit of strength that made him injury prone. So that could be a concern if he goes down that road of losing weight. I think he should just stay as he is right now with the when it comes to the weight and just be a power back that can, catch some, run some routes, use him as a power back and check down because their offensive line, it's going to take time for them to develop chemistry.
Yeah, as far as Harris comparisons, I'm not sure who said it on Twitter, but I saw someone mention Steven Jackson. I don't know.
That's a good one.
Ooh,
That's
that
a good
was
one.
a good one. I was thinking about today's game. I didn't think about. I was thinking about.
And I wish I could remember. I wish I could remember who said it because it was a prominent analyst that said it. He was more Steven Jackson than Le'Veon Bell, but I can't remember who. But it makes sense. I can see that comparison definitely.
Yes, you hit it right on the head because I didn't think about them them backs back in the 2000s or like mid to late 2000s. Yeah,
you see Harris run the ball. I mean, he doesn't go down after first contact. He's constantly moving his legs, and I'm just looking forward to seeing him against Buffalo because we've seen glimpses of him, but I just want to see the full package. I mean, that catch and run was just a phenomenal play there against the Lions where he just he stiffed arm or linebacker and he just scampered down the sidelines and he broke Jeff Okuda. Is that his name, Ty?
Yeah, Jeff Okuda.
Yeah, he broke Jeff Okuda's ankles there, and got some more yardage there. But just a tremendous play by Harrison. I think I just can't wait to see him. During the regular season.
So now let's move on to the offensive line, and that's still a big point of discussion here for the Steelers as they try to figure out the best combination going forward this season. And there's been a lot of talk about Dan Moore. He's given up 0 pressures according to Pro Football Focus, whereas Chuks Okorafor has given up 5 pressures in 3 preseason games. Now, it's a big point of contention. Is Dan Moore the future at the blind side, or could he be potentially the right tackle and replace Zach Banner? There's so many questions about that, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts on that possibility.
Well,
go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, I think the combination. Yeah, I think Dan Moore would be a better fit right now. Got to develop because you're still. What did he start? And he didn't. Did he start the previous 2 previous seasons? I know he didn't.
No,
start.
He did not.
Okay, so he had to start. So you're playing against their second. You got to see him against who they're going to play. Jerry Hughes, the kid from Miami that they just drafted. You got to see him against Buffalo. If you're going to start against Buffalo, he's going to be playing against once. So the left tackle position is still a little bit shaky right now, but I think Dan Moore is the better option at this point. He actually was one of the linemen, which I saw when I visited camp a couple of weeks ago, that didn't look too bad. He looked the best out of the bunch who was out there. I mean, I'm not an expert on offensive line play, so I can't really say I can't really give that opinion about who would be the best, but it's always about a cohesive unit. And the key is just to keep holes open and give Ben about 4 seconds. Because you got the receivers. You got the deepest wide receiver core in the league. If James Washington is your number 4, then that's a nice problem to have. And you got this Fairmouth, and you got Najee Harris, and you got Ballage over there in the backfield too that can also break tackles and run and break everything like that. So that can help you out. So I'll give it to Chris about it because he knows more about this offensive line than I am. He's the offensive line expert here.
Well, yeah, Dan Moore, fourth round pick. He's progressed really quickly in training camp and preseason. Like that's 3 straight solid performances from Moore in the preseason. But as Brandon mentioned, like he hasn't played against the ones yet, so it's kind of tough to tell. But I think they'll go with Chooks for week 1. But I think he really has he should be looking over his shoulder at Moore because Corfor has not looked good in the 2 preseason games that he's played. He had a false start against the Lions, and I believe he had one against the Eagles as well. And he hasn't looked well. He hasn't looked good in pass protection. So,
right. Wasn't he the one that gave up that pressure to Ben when he had to duck and evade and chuck the ball like 80 yards downfield to Ebron? Wasn't he the one that gave it the pressure up?
I'll have to look back, but
are you talking about the Tennessee game?
No, I'm talking about like the Lions game, just passed.
Okay.
Wasn't he the offensive lineman that gave up that set pressure to Ben when he had to?
I'll have to look back at it. He could have been. PFF credited him for allowing 5 pressures on 29 pass blocking snaps. So it could have been. But he hasn't looked solid. I didn't think he looked really that great last year at right tackle. Now you're asking him to be a left tackle. And there's also a little bit of some risk there if they choose to have Moore as like the starting left tackle. This guy's a 4th round pick. Like, would they trust him to protect Ben's blind side? Or they could also switch Banner to left tackle and then have Moore at right tackle. But people say Banner's more of a right tackle. So it's kind of tough to really gauge what's going to happen here. I think what's going to happen is they're going to go with a core floor, but I wrote today on the Renegade Blitz that I wouldn't be surprised if Moore starts at either one of the tackle positions this year at some point this season.
Let me ask you guys a question real quick. In terms of the rookie offensive lineman, who do you grade better right now? Dan Moore Jr. or Kendrick Green?
I think Kendrick Green's been going up against the ones, so it's a little bit tough to say. Kendrick Green did have a better game against the Lions. I saw he had a pancake on a run block. He's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker by far. He did give up a pressure I saw at one point in the game, and that is a little concerning because he got bull rushed against the Eagles, and then in training camp practice last week, there was reports that Tyson Alualu was bull rushing him as well, and putting him on like quote unquote roller skates. So he's a smaller type of offensive lineman. Considering in their standards, he's like 6'2", 205. It's not 200, 305 pounds. So and he has like short arms, I believe too. So he doesn't lack in some areas there. And he only started 4 games in college at center, so he's not very well experienced playing the position. So I think there is a little bit of some worrisome there with Green going into the season as the projected starter. And it does, all things indicate that he will be the starter for week 1.
I'm gonna have to echo you. I'm gonna have to defer to Chris on this point because he knows the lineman. But yeah, he's a good run blocker. He's a solid run blocker. I saw it a little bit when I visited camp. But then, because it was more, the problem was, as I'm more concerned about it with the Steelers offensive line, is off the edges more rather than up front. Because you got a Pro Bowl. They did acquire a Pro Bowl guard in Trey Turner. You have this kid Green, and you have what's the left guard? Dodson, who's he's also came out a little in camp. So it's going to be tough. They're the key. The line is the key to the season. No matter what 5 you want to send out there, they have to be the best 5 you got.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have to put the best 5 out there, and I'm not too sure if a core 4 is one of their best 5.
We can wax poetic about the wide receiver group for the Steelers all day. I mean, they go out there and do their business. You love what Juju's doing out there it seems like he's back to that 2019 catch and run like he did against San Francisco, where he left that one corner in the dust who's still on Instagram crying about it. Also, of course, we also have Chase Claypool. Deontay Johnson caught that long bomb. So If there's one thing that Steelers Nation doesn't have to worry about, it's the wide receivers group.
Or the tight ends.
Or the tight ends, but they might have a worry for tight end too with Ebron. But
Ebron, yeah.
I don't have that worry personally, but I could see where that worry is. Because I know what you're getting out of Eric Ebron. You're not going to get a pass blocker. He'd probably be suited as a wide receiver again if there was less wide receiver depth. Like they could line him up out in the slot or something like that and tell him go do something out there.
Well, the good thing is that I guess Zach Gentry is doing a lot better as a blocker. So that's encouraging to see. Because when he came out, he wasn't very highly regarded as a blocker, but he's like 6'8", like 280 plus or something. So he's a big body. So if they could get him as a dominant run blocker, maybe he could take snaps away from Ebron and put him in there in like some certain situations.
2 tight end sets potentially.
Yeah. You don't want to tip your hand, but in some situations where they have to go heavy.
Yeah, you got him. You got Firebrand. How big is he as Firebrand? I'm messing him.
You keep on messing his name up. It's all right. I can barely spell it. That's one of the issues with the other account that I had.
Yeah, even Ebron calls him just Pat. He says in the press conferences.
Yeah, we're just gonna call him Pat. Yes, yeah. Pat. How big is Pat from Penn State? Penn State Pat. How big is Penn State Pat?
He's 6'5". I know. Let me see what his weight is. It says here he's 260, so 6'5", 260.
260. You know what? I know that's your boy, Ty, but I don't know how much is cap it is Ebron's, but
very low.
It is
very low, like $2 or $4 million, if I remember correctly. That's one of the reasons why I'm not really complaining about it, because it's a cheap contract, and if you don't like him, you could say thanks, bye.
Yeah, that's what I was getting. That's the exact point I was getting at. I was like, he's actually a first round bust. He's been a bust. I mean, he had a year with the Colts, but other than that, he's really been a bust for most of his career.
The only thing that I say with Ebron that makes him good, because outside when Heath Miller was gone, you had Ladarius Green, who when he played, when he was healthy, was okay. He's automatically the best tight end since Heath Miller, and you can't deny that.
Who, Ebron?
That it's very sad, but you cannot deny it.
Not for long, because I think this.
Yeah, not for long, but he's not for long. Freiermuth's gonna overtake him, but right now at this moment, Ebron, until he plays a regular season game and goes out and does exactly what he did against the Lions, Ebron is sadly, in most Steelers fans' cases, and honestly in the overall picture, he's probably one of the best tight ends the Steelers have had since the new millennium. You could legitimately put out that argument, and again, I don't like putting it out like that, but well, the one big thing on it's for offense, it's offensive line, and sometimes Big Ben. On defense, it's the corner situation, and I will say this, the defense, especially in the second half against the Lions, a little shaky compared to the first 2 weeks of the preseason, but then again, that play typically was reserved for the first half. So I want to know, we already know Joe Hayden's the number 1. Cam Sutton more than likely is going to play number 2, but also retake his position in the slot as well. Who, in your mind, is the number 3 cornerback? And Brandon, you were there at Steelers camp, so I'm interested in your take.
There's some names escape me. Mark Gilbert looked good. But I don't think I think he'll be a rotation corner. The third corner.
I mean, also, you got Antoine Brooks III that has been getting a lot. Arthur Mollett. James Pierre from seeing guys
James Pierre, that's what I was looking for.
It was James Pierre?
I'm sorry, yes. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I was thinking of. He was looking nice in camp. Had a couple picks, like a ball ricochet. He has a little bit of ball hawk in him, which the Steelers defense will need. So you think, is Cam Sutton going to be like kind of like playing in the slot? Or is he going to be?
I think what their plan is that when it gets to their like nickel package, they'll put Cam Sutton inside and they'll put Pierre on the outside because Pierre is an outside cornerback.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is that Antoine Brooks, he's been injured for a while. He didn't play against Detroit, and then Arthur Millette, he played in the game, but he got injured early and had to leave the game. So people are kind of thinking maybe Sutton's going to. It depends on their health, but I kind of I like Arthur Millette. I think he's looked good. Brooks also was doing well. I was hearing before he got injured though, but I like Pierre at outside corner, but I think they kind of want Sutton to play on the outside and not kind of move him around so much. But Tomlin says that he's he's very flexible and versatile, so he doesn't think it's too much for him.
I think I like Pierre and I like Brooks. Looked good when he was healthy out there, but like the Pierre flash when I was up there when I saw him on camp. Ball hawking, he bounced it off the tight end, not Faribault, but not Ebron, but the third guy.
Oh, Gentry?
87. It bounced off of 87. He just scooped it right. Yes. Yeah, right at the right time. So I would like Sutton and Pierre. I think they're going to be very key because Joe Hayden's not young. He's not a spring chicken. He's in year 12 now?
And according to what he said on the Pat McAfee show, he's not going to entertain a move to safety to extend his career, which you got to respect the guy going out on his own sword. So many guys have made that move before, namely Rod Woodson, a Hall of Famer whose most of his career was as a Steeler. So, I mean, it's not unheard of.
I just saw, but that's the two corners. I think they may be your best two corners this year. Because I think not to say he's going to decline this year, but what are the chances you're going to be crushing it at year 12 at cornerback? So could be a liability, could get hurt. He's been injury prone throughout his career. So we'll have to see.
He wants a contract extension too with the Steelers. So that should be interesting to see the Steelers give that to him because I believe he's 32. I think. I know he's in his 30s.
Yeah. Oh God, we got to check his year. He might be 32 because I don't know if he came out a year early or not. I don't remember. I don't know off the top of the head.
He's 32. So would you give him like a 2-year extension? You think 34 years old as a cornerback?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Man. I don't know about I don't know how much they're going to pay him either.
Well, he's going to have to ball out this year if he wants a 2-year deal, at least by that statement. But there's also other cornerbacks on the Steelers that we didn't mention. Shakur Brown seems like he's going to secure a special team spot, practice squad spot. And Justin Lane, he's been hit or miss, but every time I looked up, I've seen him make a semblance of a play. So there's something there with him. I don't know if it's going to be in Pittsburgh. And then we mentioned a cornerback safety switch for Joe Hayden. What about the guy that's kind of playing a hybrid in Trey Norwood? Yes, he got burned on that screen pass to Quez Watkins? Yeah, Quez Watkins for the Eagles. He was kind of a guy that you could blame there, but also that was just really well blocked by the Eagles in that game. Mm-hmm. But there's smoke there and there's fire with the Steelers, and I guess they're feeling that, hey, they can go try out these undrafted late round guys because, well, the last guy we gave that tryout for, now look at him. He got big money in Cincinnati.
Got overpaid a little bit, but yeah, that worked.
That's the big thing is replacing Mike Hilton. They really don't have a clear answer for that slot because, you put Sutton in there where, he does excel in that role, but then, you're kind of moving around and, they say they want him as the outside cornerback, but it's just I don't know if they have a reliable guy there in Millette and Antoine Brooks. It might be a better option just to have Pierre there on the outside, who has looked really good in training camp and preseason.
Right. What about Hayden? What? I don't know. He doesn't want to entertain move to safety. What about playing in the nickel and the slot?
He doesn't want to play inside either, he said. He's strictly outside.
He wanted to be a boundary corner, and for the Steelers, with what he's done since they picked him up from Cleveland, I think they'll live and die with that one.
I don't know. That's gonna affect it in some way or shape or form. So I think it's going. They're playing with fire because cornerbacks get bad quick. They don't get better with age.
That slot cornerback position is going to be interesting to see what they do there. How with the outside linebackers, though? I was thinking earlier today about how, Highsmith, the trio of T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Melvin Ingram, man, I don't think they're going to miss a beat this year without Bud Dupree. I think Highsmith has really took that next step, it seems, at least in training camp in the preseason so far. And I think they got a steal in Ingram, too.
Yeah, the one thing about Ingram, he made a first-round draft pick in Penny Sewell have to really work hard. He gave him some turnstile moments out there, and that's what you want to see out of a guy that's hoping to pick up another contract in this league. He's a former Pro Bowler, so he's got the pedigree, much like his fellow former Los Angeles Charger, Trey Turner. They got the opportunity to do something out here, and of course, with the way that TJ Watt plays, especially once he gets his deal and once he's back out there on the field, that's how it is. They need that third outside linebacker, and they also have a fourth if they want to in Quincy Roche.
Yeah, or Jameer Jones too. It's probably going to be either one of those guys. Quincy, Cassius Marsh, who might be on the outside looking in. Some of those guys might go to the practice squad. They're still having a 16-man practice squad because of the COVID situation. I'm not even sure if Cassius Marsh. He's been on so many different teams. I don't even know if he could go to the practice squad. But
right,
he might just be a straight cut.
I don't know, man. They put Steph Wisniewski back on the practice squad for KC. So I think that practice squad thing, frankly, I think there should be no ruling against the practice squad. That's just me. They should keep it like this and let anyone and everyone be on that practice squad, because especially when they go to that 17th game, guys are going to get hurt.
Yeah, that's the point with the 17th, especially when they get into the second half.
Yeah. Of course, the middle linebacker situation, so they acquired Joe Schobert to be the new green dot on defense after losing Vince Williams to retirement, and maybe figuring out that while Robert Spillane had a great moment last year, he's just probably not the long-term solution at middle linebacker alongside Devin Bush, and especially as Devin Bush is trying to find himself back from missing almost the rest of the season due to torn ACL. So, guys, what are your thoughts on the Schobert trade and how he looked against the Lions?
Go ahead.
I thought he looked all right. It's tough. He's coming there just, it's only a week under, learning the playbook and everything. But I thought Bush looked better too. I thought Bush looked more comfortable. Really no complaints with the defense overall. I mean, they were dominating the Lions offense. I mean, Lions had a ton of penalties too. They just, altogether it was a sloppy game by Detroit. They had their backup quarterback in there, Tim Boyle. So it was tough for them to move the ball. I mean, Ingram and Highsmith were just teeing off on them.
Oh yeah, they were. Plus, but going to Sherbert, he's just a tackle machine. He has had 100 tackles every year in the league except for one, I think. Correct? Because he made the Pro Bowl on the 0-16 team.
Yeah. He's a tackling machine. He's very good in pass coverage. He's had 7 interceptions the last 2 years. So that's what the Steelers need too. Because Spillane, man, he's just, he just looked terrible. Reportedly in training camp, and then like the first 2 preseason games, and then even against Detroit, I think he was giving up some yardage there in the passing game as well.
Well, it's a good thing because I think Schobert's basically what the team wanted Avery Williamson to be. Avery Williamson also had a couple of 100 tackle seasons, but he didn't have the pass coverage pedigree that Schobert needs. And he comes from those 4-3 defenses, and you can see from the Eagles, basically all they did was just let Myles Garrett go after the quarterback with the rest of the defensive line, and the linebackers drop back into coverage. It's a little bit of a different situation in a 3-4, but still, you need guys like that in your linebacking core, especially with the propensity for situations where, a linebacker just has to cover a wide receiver. I know a lot of Steelers fans don't like that. That's just the way the league goes.
Right. But I don't think I would want Schobert covering linebackers. I would rather have Devin Bush, if he's healthy, I'll have him doing that, but not Schobert. He's not. He's like a Paul Pusluzzi. That's who he reminds me of. Also from he played for the Bills and Jaguars. No, that's the Jaguars. But yeah, he's going back to Penn State. But yeah, he reminds me of him. So we'll see about how he quarterbacks the defense and everything like that. I have not seen too much of his plays. I mean, he's playing in Jacksonville and Cleveland. So we'll see how he works out and meshes with this rest of his defense.
Hey, he's supposed to have the green dot this year. He's going to be the signal caller for the defense. And, all reports say, he's a really smart player. And listen to the interviews, he seems like he's, has a good head on his shoulders as far as, football IQ and everything. But I think it was a great deal by Kevin Colbert, only giving up a 6th round pick. I mean, Colbert, man, he continues to fleece these teams. Like, I mean, Jacksonville, they didn't want to have his, they wanted to dump his contract. And
yeah, they
had some younger players that they felt fit their system better. So, kind of worked out, both ends there, I guess. But, I think it was a great move by the Steelers.
It was a good, but they only had to give up a 6th round pick. Wow.
Yeah. I thought they were going to give like a 4th, and I was like,
yeah, 4.
Yeah, maybe we can get that 4th for their cornerback that they also want to offload as well, that they just drafted last year. So, but let's the last thing we have to talk about is defensive line, and we got to see Isaiah Loudermilk in that last Detroit Lions game. He's a project. But, you can't teach size. Like, I'm really excited to see what his future. He's probably going to sit behind Tuitt, Hayward, and Alulu and learn some more. But, again, the prospects on defensive line is looking really great with the Steelers.
It's looking good. They are looking good. I can say what I say with Cameron Hayward about, like I said, hating defensive linemen don't look better at the age, but we'll see how he does. We'll see how the defense goes because you got a couple players that need to stay healthy, especially in a 17-game season. But the guy you just talked about, I think he could work his way in throughout, like later on in the season, we learn and develop. So,
Chris, who was the other defensive tackle that he's trying to push out? I know it's Davis and Buggs, one of those two.
Yeah, Carlos Davis. Isaiah Buggs. Buggs probably, I don't think he's going to make the 53, I don't think. Because they like Carlos Davis. And then you got Chris Wormley also. So that's.
Yeah, Wormley was acquired when they thought that Alulu was going to Jacksonville, but he changed his mind. And it created a situation where I don't know if they would have kept him if they knew that Alulu was going to come back.
Yeah. Oh, Alulu. Yeah, he had a nice pass break up there against on Saturday night. I think they'll be solid. Hayward, I don't think he's slowing down anytime soon. And, once they get to it back from once he's back in shape and stuff, I think he'll fit right. Won't miss a beat there. Along with TJ Watt, I think these guys they've been around playing so long and stuff. Guys like that, I don't think they really need the preseason. They might start off a little bit slow, but I don't think it'll be a big concern.
I think the last year's Steelers team was probably the biggest proponent of maybe they don't need a preseason, but of course, the end of the year the bottom fell out.
Yeah.
But still,
yeah.
There's a lot to talk about with that, and I know Brandon, you said defensive linemen don't age well. Tyson Alulu has something to say about that.
Okay. Oh, snap. You are absolutely correct about that point. You do have a point, Ty, because he actually got drafted a year before Hayward.
Yeah, he's 34. And he just came on last season, so yeah, Halulu. But then again, I think nose tackle in the Steelers system, you think of big Casey Hayward, and all he had to do really out there was just command space and allow lanes to be opened up for those linebackers.
I think
He's one of them big old Samoan boys.
Yeah, I think I don't know, the Steelers, like, I know I've seen people saying that like a lot more people now in the media are kind of like seeing that the Steelers might not be as bad as what they originally thought. But, you know, they did play the Lions and it was a preseason game, so it's kind of tough to say. But I don't know. They did look good, though, I have to say.
Guys, we've completed talking about the first 3 weeks and just about every facet for the Steelers. We could also talk about the special teams game, but I think we all know this. Presley Harvin is going to be the starting punter, and Jordan Berry, while he has done a good job in fighting for his job, I think he may get another opportunity elsewhere out of that fight, but we've seen the last days of the Aussie.
We shall see, but I think, yeah, I'm proud of the brother. He's doing well, doing his thing.
We picked up an interview with a former Steeler, and you've been wanting this interview for a while, and of course we finally did get it, and it was a great talk, and we'll talk more about it, and we'll show you who we talked to coming up next. And we welcome former Steelers cornerback and two-time Super Bowl champion Bryant McFadden, currently working for the CBS Sports Network and host of the All Things Covered podcast with Vikings cornerback Patrick Peterson. Bryant, you're our first former Steeler on the podcast, so thank you so much for taking the time.
Man, thank you for giving me an invitation. It's an honor.
Well, nearly 2 weeks ago, Troy Polamalu got enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it was quite the atmosphere in Canton with 4 other Steelers being inducted. What did you think of Polamalu's speech, and how was the weekend in Canton seeing all your past teammates and, of course, Steelers legends?
His speech was emotional, was truthful, and it was just basically summed up, you know, what it means to be a Steeler. Especially when we were all there, the atmosphere was always about being together, you know, togetherness. That was the mentality, you know, a selfless bunch of guys that were trying to come together to complete the same task, reach the same goal. And we were able to do that. And, you know, Troy just basically summed it up in a matter of 5-6 minutes, whatever time they were able to give him. And he just did it so sound, and it was so professionally done, and it was real. It was real. And just being able to be there to support the individuals that I played with, the Coach Cowher who coached me, who drafted me, and then seeing Donnie Shell go in as well, an individual who I didn't play with, but I know of. And then Bill Nunn going in as well, you know what I mean? Knowing what he meant to the organization, you know what I mean? Just kind of laying out the foundation for what the 70s dynasty was all about was great. It was a great experience, something I'll never forget.
And Brian, what was it like playing with Troy Polamalu, and what were your impressions of him when you first met him and watched him play in person? Playing
with Troy was just, you know, it was so surreal because he was so instinctive. One of the best safeties to ever play the game. He was so intelligent as well. And he saw things that other players didn't see. And that's because he had that it factor. So just being able to learn from him. And the one thing that I take from being around Troy and establishing a relationship is just the humility he always displays. You know what I mean? A very, very humble guy. You wouldn't know Troy was a football superstar if you just had a conversation with him. He never came off that way. He was easy to walk up to talk to, to ask questions. He answered them. He always made himself available to his teammates, to fans. Just the humility is something that, you know, I wish I had. You know, I have. I had when I played, and currently now being away from the game. He's just an awesome guy.
What was your favorite memory of Bill Cowher in your first couple years as a Steeler?
The first time he cursed me out real good. We was playing Chicago 2005, the snow game. And it was a crack replace. I had to come replace the safety who got cracked, and I had outside contain. And Thomas Jones came running hard, and I thought I was going to make a for sure tackle, and he just ran through my arms like it was nothing and gained another extra 10 to 15 yards, got a first down. We eventually came off the football field. When I came off, man, the chin was waiting for me. He was waiting for me. He laid into me, man, cussed me out real good. Snow and spit was flying everywhere. I'm trying to dodge the spit and the snow while he's in my face going off at me. But, the standard was a standard. I didn't uphold the standard at that time, and I remembered it. And in the next series, we go out there, and Troy missed basically the same tackle that I missed on Thomas Jones, kind of the same identical play. And I just waited to see if Coach was going to cuss Troy out when we got to the sideline. And all he did was just pat Troy in the back. I said, nah, ain't this some bull? I'm like, what? I just got cussed out for the same thing, but then Troy gets a pat on the back. Like, okay, I understand, but it is what it is. I was just trying to earn my stripes as a young rookie. So, he had to make sure that I understood that those things won't be acceptable.
You said the standard is the standard. That's a Tomlinism, but was that also a Cowherism as well, or at least in a way?
It wasn't. It wasn't necessarily a Cowherism. Cowher didn't really has isms like Mike T. But for the Steelers organization, that has always been, one of the makeup of the organizations of the organization. The standard is a standard. That's why we've been so consistent. Through the 70s. Had a little drought in the 80s, but the 90s kind of took back off in the 2000s. So regardless of what you're going through, regardless who's playing, we always felt like that's the standard is the standard. Excellence has always been the standard.
And those mid to late 2000s Steeler teams had quite a brotherhood, especially on defense, which really stemmed from Dick LeBeau's leadership. What was it like playing for Coach LeBeau and playing with, such a tight group there?
Coach LeBeau is wonderful. Smart, man. Coach LeBeau, man. Football savvy. His intelligence on the football field was something that always put us in positions to be successful. He had an eye for talent, too. He understood talent. He could easily pick out and see if a guy's going to be special, if he would have a chance. Coach LeBeau, the great thing about Coach LeBeau was, he played the game at a high level, was extremely successful, 62 interceptions. So he saw everything that we were going through. He's seen it. You know what I mean? He never got too high. He never got too low. He was always at a common place when it came to talking about the game of football. So, man, just some of the things that I learned from Coach LeBeau, man, is something I never forget. And he always walked into the meeting room the same thing, saying the same thing. It's a great day to be alive, man. That's how he started off the meeting. Walks in, hey, it's a great day to be alive, man. And whatever it is we're going through mentally or physically, we hear that coming from an older individual who's always energetic and enthusiastic. Let's go. Let's strap it up and let's go. Let's go to work. So Coach LeBeau is amazing.
And I want to talk about your connection to, of course, the late Bobby Bowden, the former Florida State Seminoles head coach. And being born and raised in Florida, such a football crazy state, I think he kind of sometimes gets lost in between the glamour periods of so many great players in Florida State's history, but also in between the University of Florida and also the U as well. Just talk about your experiences with Coach Bowden and how important he is to the state of Florida's football scene.
My experience with Coach Bowden was always on point. Was always good. He treated me fairly. He recruited me heavily. I ended up signing with Florida State, and we had good times. When Bobby, means to the state of Florida, not just the state of Florida, but just college football, one of the best coaches to ever do it, I think. The reason why I say that is because, Florida State at one time was a girls' school, didn't have a football program. And then when the football program surfaced, they were bad. So when Bobby took over in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, they were a bad team. But the thing is, most people only remember Florida State, as a relevant program. That's because he wiped away the bad years. That's a legacy, right? Like, you don't remember Florida State being bad, trash, bottom dweller. Now, granted, we have some difficult years over the last few years, most recently. But when you talk about when Bobby was there, most people only remember Bobby as a winning coach because he was so consistent in what he did from what it was 1987 to 2001, 2000, I think top 5 finishes, 14, 15 straight years or something like that. Double-digit wins in that span as well. I mean, we haven't yet to see that. That hasn't been repeated just yet. You know what I'm saying? The home wins and doing it in a time when Florida was relevant and Miami was relevant. So what he means, not just to Florida State, but college football, he will go down as one of the best coaches to ever do it, I think.
Yeah. And transition to your rookie season with the Steelers. In that rookie year, you ended up winning a Super Bowl with the Steelers, and that was a historic 2005 Super Bowl run that included 8 straight wins to ultimately hoist the Lombardi Trophy in Jerome Bettis' hometown of Detroit. Bill Cowher was recently on your podcast, and he talked about his speech the night before the Cincinnati game in the playoffs when he showed T.J. Houshmandzadeh wiping his cleats with the terrible towel in their late, I think it was November or early December, I think, regular season win at Heinz Field. And
it basically decided the division championship for them.
Yeah. And you mentioned in the podcast that the room was just completely silent after he showed that clip. What else do you remember from that Cowher speech and in total the 2005 Super Bowl run?
Man, that speech got us ready to take over the entire playoff bracket. When he gave us a speech, he talked to us. He showed the video. He cut the lights off and played Phil Collins. I mean, you heard people just tearing up in the room. I mean, you just hear Phil Collins playing. I can hear it rolling in the air. And guys just meditating. It was personal for us. Because number one, people felt like we weren't supposed to be in the playoffs. Number two, we playing against a divisional foe in the first round at their home in their backyard. And we were just against our odds. You know what I mean? That's how we felt. And Coach Cowher had a great way of motivating us. I mean, listening to Coach Cowher's speech before a game literally will have you thinking you can run through a wall and the wall will lose. And that's how we felt. So that night was the night for me where we all came together mentally and said we wanted the Super Bowl. We weren't cocky. We weren't overconfident. We just believed in ourselves, and we believed in the guys in that room. And we felt like, man, we winning the championship right here, and it starts at Cincinnati. And after Cincinnati, guess what? We got Indy. We owed Indy anyway. That was personal because they embarrassed us Monday night. So that was one of the more memorable speeches I've ever endured my playing career because he like I said, he cut the lights off, man. Grown men just emotional because it was so serious. It was so serious. We got out there, we just dominated.
And unfortunately, the recorder that had worked so well in the first 51 episodes, if you count that part 2 with the Eagles last year, of the podcast, and of course so many things did at Point Park over the pandemic. For the first time, it just flat out failed whenever we were recording. It left us speechless so much because it was such a great interview. Bryant showed us the football he had from his first sack fumble against, of all people, Brett Favre. And on that offensive line for the Packers that day was Steelers offensive line coach Adrian Klemm.
Yeah, Clem was at left guard in that game. It was number 70. So if you go on YouTube and you type in Steelers versus Packers 2005 highlights, you'll see that there. But Troy Polamalu, he picked up the ball and scoop and scored for a 77-yard touchdown. And that was all because of Bryant on a cornerback blitz. Had a sack force fumble there on Brett Favre. And it was a really good discussion. McFadden said that he was super late on the blitz, and it was his first game at Lambeau, and he remembered growing up, playing with Brett Favre in Madden games. So it was a pretty exciting game there play there for McFadden, and McFadden told us that Polamalu gave him the game ball after the game and said that if it wasn't for his sack forced fumble, Polamalu wouldn't have been able to scoop and score a 77-yard touchdown. So McFadden really thought that was a humble gesture there by Polamalu.
So once again, we thank Bryant McFadden for the interview, and of course, it's unfortunate that due to technical error that we could not show you that podcast in full. It would have been a separate episode. Of course, we were also going to talk about a preview before the Lions game and what he thought about the Steelers situation, including potential contracts for Minkah Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt.
He also mentioned about the Steelers playoff game in 2005 there when they beat Cincinnati. The night before, Bill Cowher gave an epic pregame speech, and he said that it was just silent there, and they could have ran through a wall. He felt like it was just a very emotional time because Hushmanzada, he showed him the clip of him wiping his cleats with a terrible towel in the regular season matchup in December when the Bengals beat the Steelers, and the Steelers got revenge in that game. And McFadden shared with us that they were playing Phil Collins in there, and he was saying, "In the air tonight, they're playing."
It was a great interview, and of course, if you remember that Hushmanzada clip, it was after the Bengals clinched officially the AFC North, and then from there, the Steelers went on that tremendous run, capping it off in Super Bowl 40 with the franchise's 5th Super Bowl win. Chris, talk about his podcast as well.
Yeah, you can follow Bryant McFadden's podcast. It's called All Things Covered. He does it with his cousin, current Vikings cornerback Patrick Peterson. Great podcast, a lot of Steelers content. He had great interviews with Bill Cowher. He had Antron Roll on there before, who revealed that he felt like tripping James Harrison on his 100-yard interception return there for a touchdown in Super Bowl 43. Just a lot of great Steelers talk there. Make sure you check that out on all podcast platforms. And I usually watch it on YouTube. It's called, again, All Things Covered.
And so, Brandon, thank you for coming on for the podcast. We hope to have you on during the regular season. And as always, it's a fun time to recap the Steelers. I don't know if they're going to go 11-0 like they did last year, which made the recaps kind of like football nirvana for us. But still, we're excited for the future.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you'll definitely be seeing me a lot this season. So follow me at bwalkerthedawn. Check me out on fanrankings.com, writing for them. I'll be writing, obviously, for you guys at the Renegade Blitz. And check me out on this week on the new Pittsburgh Courier. We'll be talking about the Steelers game against the Lions.
One of the great black newspapers in Pittsburgh. And Brandon, thank you so much for coming on. And Chris, you mentioned earlier that you didn't know how the Steelers were going to go this season. Next week, we will be doing our preview podcast for the Steelers season upcoming. And you had a less than positive prognosis. I'm not going to say that word. You had a less than positive outlook on the season. I said 10-7. You said under 500.
I had 7-10. That was after the schedule was released back in May, after seeing the Steelers, 3 preseason games. I might have to change that. I mean, they look pretty good. I mean, it's tough to gauge with preseason, but man, I'm really impressed by Melvin Ingram and Alex Highsmith. I was a little bit worried how they're going to replace Bud Dupree and stuff, but and Ben looks good too. I think so. Yeah. You guys will have to tune into that to see if I change my mind on that. I think I am going to bump them up a little bit. I'm not too sure. They do have a tough schedule, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
That's all for us on the Renegade Blitz. For Brandon Walker and Chris Ward, I'm Ty Polk. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next episode. Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz. Read articles on renegadeblitz.com and like us on Facebook. Our podcast is available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeart, and Spotify.